Hello, and welcome to the fourth part, or the complex tutorial for the Egg Crate Waffle project in the digital fabrication class. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take a model that may be a bit more complex than the last three steps of just creating a surface and creating the egg crate or waffle architecture using another command called contour. This could also be done to the surface, but because the surface didn't have any actual dimensionality to it, it wouldn't have actually worked. So I got this 3D model. This is a 3D model from the NASA's website where you can find all sorts of free 3D models. You could also use TurboSquid or GrabCAD, similar to what we did in the Pepakura project. Any 3D model would be fine. You could also generate your own 3D model in Rhino using any of the preset solids or shapes or commands that we've already gone through in the class thus far. So I'm going to take my model, and I know that I'm in large object inches. Not that it really matters because I'm not actually outputting this, but just to give you an idea for scale and to kind of wrap my mind around how big my units are, I know that I'm in large units inches. So I'm going to use the contour command. Type in contour. It's asking me for the objects that I'm going to be contouring, and that's this. And it's going to ask for a base plane. And essentially, I want to do one plane in the X and one in the Y. So I'll start out with this, and I'm just going to click any point in my top view, and then while holding Shift, drag to the right, which is the X axis, click. Now it's going to ask the distance between the contour lines. And you can play around with that. Obviously, the smaller the distance between the contour lines, the more contour lines you'll get overall. So if I start with a distance of 5, let's see how many I get. That looks about okay. And again, I could, have way more contour lines. I could have less contour lines. Obviously, the more contour lines you have, the more detail that you're going to capture from your model. So before I unselect these curves that just created from the contour command, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add them to a different layer. So what I'm going to do is go down here to my Neapolitan pie slice, and I'm going to change objects to current layer. Now they have to be selected, which they are. And so now they're on the red layer. So if I go back to my black layer, you'll see that all those curves now, which are my X curves, are in the red. So I'm going to do the same process as I just did with contour. Select the object, which is the rock. Contour base plane. Now the last base plane we did in the x-axis, this one we'll do in the y-axis. So again, I'm going to click, hold shift, unclick, and then contour distance. I can keep 5, although this is longer in the y, so maybe I would want to increase that distance, let's say to 10. There we go. So there you can see my contour lines in the y direction. So again, before I deselect my curves, I'm going to select the purple layer. I'm going to go down to my layer menu, and I'm going to change objects to current layer. So now, as you can see, I have red and I have purple curves, each one delineating a different axis. And this is just going to help me keep things organized as I keep modeling. So at this point, I don't really need my 3D model from before, so I'm going to drag. Actually, before I do that, as always, I'll copy and paste, bring that out there, and then I'll hide it. Then when I come back in here, I can just delete that. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of look around, and this is just from having done this before. If I were actually going to be cutting it, this little piece right here wouldn't hold on because it's attached to nothing. And it's really, really small. So I'm just going to delete it. And I'm going to kind of look around and make sure I don't see any other sort of odd artifacts. And the other thing I notice is curve like this inside of another shape. That's also not really going to be doing me any good, so I'm going to delete that. And it's a little easier to see the curves that are inside of other curves once we surface everything. I'm just cleaning up any curves that I see that look like they're inside of another curve or on their own. Okay, now that I've cleaned it up a little bit, I'll go ahead and I'll turn all of these into surfaces. But what I would like to do first is I'm going to hide the red layer. Make sure I don't have any of those little artifacts left. We're good. Then I'm going to select my purple curves and I'm going to use the command planar surface. So up in the surface menu, I'll select planar curves, and that's going to turn all of my planar curves selected into surfaces. So there we go. And as you can see, I have my purple surfaces. Now what I'd like to do is go back to my red menu, hide the purple, make sure I don't have any weird little artifacts. Let's go back and let's turn them back on. Yeah, it intersects there. Okay, so I'll go back to purple, go to red, hide purple. And now what I'll do is I'll select all of my red and I'll do the planar curves command again. There we go. Now I have these. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my black layer and I'm going to show my purple layer. So now as you can see, I have a grid of my surfaces, X and Y, color coordinated. And the next thing I want to do is I want to get rid of my curves. So, but maybe before I do that, what I should do is I should copy and paste this again. Bring that up there, and then I'll hide it. Okay. So now what I want to do is select all curves. So in my command window, I'll select curve. That's selected all these curves, because once we do the intersect command, if you have curves, where curves intersect, you get a point, and the points are what we don't want here. We just want intersect curves. So I've selected all my curves, and I'm just going to delete them, right? Because we have them in the thing that we just copy and pasted above, if we ever need to go back. So I've deleted all my curves, so now all I have are surfaces. So the next step will be to run the intersect command. And there you go. And unlike the previous demonstrations, I should be able to toggle on and off my X and Y's using the layer menu and not have to create two separate versions of these. So what I'll do is in the black menu, I'll hide the reds. And as you can see now, the purples are still available with the black intersect curve lines. And what I can do here is I can take these, I can copy and paste them, and I can drag them down here. Then if I show my red menu and I hide my purple menu, you'll again see now I have my red planes with the black curves. I'll copy and paste that again, bring it down. And then if I show purple, so now I have a set of red and a set of purple, both with the intersecting curves, and then I have my original. So for this, I'm just going to drag it away and hide it. And now I can bring my other two back into center. So similar to the first three tutorials, now we're going to rotate and lay everything flat. So I'll use my gumball while holding shift, flip them over, and pull them apart one by one. That looks good. We'll select these. Holding my shift, using the gumball, I'll flip them over. And then making sure to select the whole surface and curves, remember, because if I just select the surface, it won't give me the curves. All right. So now I have everything laid out in my top view, and I can select all my surfaces. Right, select surfaces, and then do the thing that we did on the simple steps is curve from objects, duplicate border. There we go. And then I can select all my surfaces again. You know, before I do that, why don't I just copy and paste it again? Because that was a lot of work dragging them around. Okay. So now I'll select surfs and I'll delete them. So now I'm left with just the curves. And now everything else is the same from the initial steps before, where I would find my midpoint. I'll roll through that just for a sec. Again, let's say my material thickness for this demo is 1 inch. I make sure I have my object snaps on, end, midpoint, intersection, and perpendicular. Find the midpoint, both sides. 0.5, right? Half of my actual distance. Hold shift, select. 0.5. Then, just like in the last video, I would do that. I would trim. There you have it. And then on my other side, I would go in the opposite direction. I would go, if I went down here, I would go up on this side. And so that's how you can use the contour command to do the same job as we were using the manually making planes and dissecting them in the other tutorials. So there you go. I hope that helps.